Awesome. All right. Well, I will go ahead and kick this off. Before we do introductions on who we're going to hear from tonight, I want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Will Bott. I'm the director of STEM to Stern, working with U.S. Rowing on running our program. So I work with Brooke, who you're going to hear from tonight, and Rachel Hunter, and we help rowing clubs establish the STEM to Stern program, which is a program that addresses major barriers that kids from underserved communities face. So we're in 18 different locations, and we're excited. Our year has kicked off really well, and we're pumped to see where it goes. So before we get into the announcements, I just wanted to tell everybody that we're going to be hearing from the No Limits Quad tonight. And the No Limits Quad came together to compete at Masters Nationals. So we're going to be able to hear about their experiences in rowing and their vision for our sport. Before we dive in, I have just a few announcements. If we can use the Q&A tab at the bottom to ask questions, that would be great. That's better than using chat. We'll get to those at the end. So if you have any questions about anything that's happening or about what anybody is saying, please put that in the Q&A. Next, so U.S. Rowing's Olympic Development Camps registration and financial aid information is going to be available starting next week. So if you have anybody who's interested in participating, that info will come out next week. There are a few job postings that were posted recently on U.S. Rowing's website. So that's a communications coordinator, a new head of safety and wellness, and more. So I'll post the link in the chat in just a few moments. There's also a Facebook page for BIPOC moms. So if there are any BIPOC moms out there in the audience, again, I'll post the Facebook page, but it's a new group that is forming, and we're hoping to get a bunch of people connected through that. And then next month, you can be on the lookout for a women-focused webinar, which is going to be at the end of March to celebrate Women's History Month. Additionally, right after this webinar, we're going to send a survey out to kind of get a sense of what the rowing community is looking to hear about, who they're looking to hear from, and some feedback. So let's go ahead and turn it over to the No Limits Quad. I think if we can actually first do some quick introductions. Patrick, if you don't mind going first, and just who you are, where you're coming from, and what you do in rowing. We'll just kind of go from Patrick, and then we'll go stroke to bow. So Marcus, we'll go to you next.
Awesome. Thank you, Will. Hey, everybody, I'm not going to go in real depth with who I am. Hopefully, if you've been paying attention over these last 2 years, you know who everybody on this panel is. I'm the National Director for Athletes Without Limits, and we are the national program for athletes to perform at the highest level with intellectual impairment. Our program encompasses 3 really umbrellas, which is our ID athletes that we send to global games, international competitions, and also to represent Team USA through our juniors program, which Coach Brook is the lead coach for that program, which works with at-risk youth in DC, bringing in kids at a younger age, which I'll talk about a little bit later, to rowing, so it's not just something that's new to them by the time they get to high school. And then we also have our veteran leader program, which we have 65 active duty and retired veterans. Many are service-connected, disabled, and veterans who are introduced to rowing through our programs at the Anacostia Community Boathouse. DC Strokes Rowing Club is our host program. They've been partnering with us. They've been with us from the beginning. I am an active duty disabled military veteran, and that program was the program that took me in when I was being medically retired and was dealing with a lot of barriers, and rowing was the sport that I found as a part of rehab. And because of that, founded the three adaptive rowing programs in DC. I'm the founding coach for all three of them. And I'm very happy to see that we continue growing, building, educating, bringing more leaders in, like these young men who are in this quad, which is a big part of why this quad was brought together. In this last year and a half, there's been a lot more awareness, a lot more just conversation of our need to support and have community within the rowing community with men and women of color. And probably a little over a year ago, we all came together and just started talking, and things like this are a lot more common. We know that we're not alone, but we also know there needs to be a heck of a lot more of us, but also those kids and those parents and those coaches and those people who may not want diversity on their crew. They see the excellence in rowing. So the No Limits Quad is an example of showing excellence in rowing. These men are some of the best leaders, examples, but they also are not cookie cutter. We're not all the same, which sometimes, we get the, oh, like that black person or that black person. It's like, no, we're all different. And we all, we fight and disagree like family, because we all are all different. But at the same time, at the end of the day, we're all athletes and we're all professionals, and we come together to be examples for that little black boy, that little black girl, that little Latino boy, that little Latino girl to see, hey, I can be there. That boathouse is my boathouse. So I was really proud of the work these gentlemen did. And along with our elite sculling coaching director, I'm going to give a shout out right now to him so we don't forget, Marco Bovo, who is one of our coaches who has been around for a long time with our programs, doing it when it wasn't cool. And he volunteered the time and helped coach these gentlemen. And thank you, Marco, for being there, because a lot of people aren't there. A lot of people are there when it's cool too. So I appreciate the folks behind the scenes, all of our clubs, our Boathouse, DC Strokes, Wakefield High School crew, the Warrior Battalion at Walter Reed, just all of the great support we have in the DC area. So I'm going to stop now, but thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. And I think we're going to get to the quad next, but I think your comment about it's not just like a cookie cutter, oh, these are black men rowers, right? Like, and what I'm really excited for the community to hear is how there's diversity within this group that we're going to hear from tonight. And I'm excited to kind of have our community experience that and hear about that as well. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. Marqus, let's kick it over to you. Just name and where you're tuning in from, and yeah, kind of what you're doing right now in rowing.
Yeah, so my name is Marqus Brown. Currently I'm in Seattle, Washington. Born and raised in Philly. Just recently moved out here. Currently an assistant coach at University of Washington on the men's side. What led me here? It's a lot of rowing in Philly, a lot of coaching in Philly. And one of my friends, I worked with him at my alma mater at LaSalle. He got a job out here and he thought it would be a good fit. And yeah, I'm loving it. It's great city, great program.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks. Maurice, how about you?
So also born and raised in Philadelphia. Right now I'm in Oakland, California. Just came from San Diego, obviously. Right now I row for Potomac Boat Club. Group born and raised in Philadelphia, row for Philadelphia City Rowing. Junior year, after my first year, got recruited to the U.S. Naval Academy under Coach Steve Perry for the lightweight program. Door ended up closing. Got a full scholarship to a small school, Carter Arcadia University. Through that program, I got another full scholarship to go to University of New South Wales in Sydney, Australia, where I rowed in college. First African-American to ever represent that team and go to the Australia University Games. So that was a cool experience. Came back, rowed for Undine on Boathouse Row, and then got a big boy job, and now working right outside of DC while also representing Potomac Boat Club.
Cool. Thanks. Napoleon, how about you?
Napoleon Griffin. I have a little bit different background than everyone else. So I was pretty much a track runner that transitioned into rowing, learning to row in Carolina, Puerto Rico. And I currently live in the state of Texas, and I split my time between Austin and Dallas, where I'm connected with Texas Rowing Center under the guidance of Tracy Falkenthal, who I adore, and also with Dallas Rowing Club, where I've connected with Maria Eswe, who I adore as well. Both fantastic rowing programs, and it's just allowed me to make a great transition, which connected me with Athletes Without Limits. And how I even got connected to these guys was through Instagram, believe it or not. Maurice and Marcus and I were, we used to message each other on Instagram for almost a year and a half, but never met until we met in DC, but that's for a later story. But that's all for me for right now.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Brook, how about you?
Hello, everyone. My name is Brook Yimer. I was born in Ethiopia, which is located in East Africa, and moved to the country when I was 12 years old. Initially, I was a swimmer that turned into a rower. So Patrick was actually the head coach for the rowing team. That's actually one of the reasons I joined. And initially I thought rowing was super diverse because I saw him as a head coach. He was a representation there, and then I joined the team. And then I got recruited to row Washington College. I had a full academic scholarship, which gave me, the ability to row and go to school at the same time. And after graduating, I started coaching at Wakefield varsity girls crew and also novices. In addition to that, I also helped Athletes Without Limits adaptive and youth crew. And I was a lead coach for the DC Stroke WCD Youth Program, which is the first and only all-Black rowing program Patrick started when I was in high school. And I was actually one of his first volunteers when he started out. I was a senior in high school, and I saw kids who wanted to row, and I wanted to row, and I had an opportunity. I wanted to give back to the kids who also wanted to row.
Cool, thanks, Brook.
And right now I'm a program coordinator for STEM to Stern.
That's right. Yeah, Brook and I work with Rachel as the STEM to Stern team. So cool. So I guess before we dive into you guys individually and hear individually from you, I want to just ask how you all came together. Who brought everybody together? How did that all work? And a little bit about the significance, what the goal was in doing this. So yeah, I just want to put that out there.
Napoleon, why don't you start?
Okay. Believe it or not, this entire concept came from a day when I was on an erg doing tons of meters. And I don't know, it just hit me while I was erging. I don't see anybody that looks like me in a team boat. I said, what about a black quad? I just remember saying it to myself. So once I finished my erg piece, I text Maurice. I said, what do you think about us forming an all black quad? It didn't even, I don't think 10 seconds passed, he already responded, I'm down. So then he said, let me throw it out there. So we contacted Marcus in a group chat. He was like, yeah, I'm all for it. So they said, well, let's see if we can find some other people. And I think they contacted Brook, and they spoke with Brook, and Brook pitched it to Patrick. And within a week, I think we had a Zoom meeting and we were all on, and it took off from there. So an idea, just a thought for me, was manifested and became a reality through the work of Patrick. So he was able to be the logistical spearhead with everything. And I was able to come from Texas. I said, don't worry about the logistics of me getting there. I can handle that. And so everyone else was already on the East Coast. So I lived in DC for 6 years. So it was like a homecoming for me. So I said, Southwest is a great plane to jump on anytime I need to. And I made my way to DC, and we met collectively for the first time, went out on the water, had our first training session. I'll never forget, there was a gentleman on the shore, a black man. He said, hey. And so we were in between pieces resting. And he said, hey, let me take a picture of y'all. I've never seen 4 black men in a boat. And so I said, all right. And so I remember we took the picture, and I put my hand up in my militant self, but I had my hand up, and he was like, thank you so much. And we went on and continued rowing. And I can recall other people in the park looking at us as well. And it was a really good feeling. And it felt good to be in the boat together with guys who I knew but had never really met physically until that day, but the camaraderie was already there. And it just meshed so well. And you can take it from there, Patrick.
Awesome. Brook, why don't you share a little bit? The camaraderie was already there. And I think, like, for me, the brotherhood was already there. One that a lot of folks, when they're asking, well, you know, what is it? You're just like any of us. It's like, no. Like, I remember being the only Black coach at that boathouse, and now there's 7. I remember, you know, like, by our presence and being there. So, you know, one of the questions that people ask is like, oh, how do we make an impact? It's like, show up first and get people to show up and help train and recruit and mentor those people so they're there. You know, the manifestation of our Black coaches right now are they were our Black students. They were our students. They were our rowers that we brought up. And so for me, like, I'm 53, so these guys are all younger than me. So it makes me very proud to know that the foundation of what this Black quad really represents. And we call it the Black quad. We're cool with that. But that's, you know, in our house. But what it really was about was us coming together and supporting each other during a time that was very hard for all of us in this country, and using the sport to give ourselves the strength to keep going. And I think that that's something that I saw it in Brook. I remember, and I'll let Brook take over, in Brook and his brother, because Brook rowed for me at Wakefield. His brother rowed at Wakefield. Brook was the captain, and his brother was the captain who was in finals at nationals. And then the next captain at Wakefield was also an Ethiopian. So for like 10 years, that crew had the lead of their men's side were Ethiopian young men. And that was because of, like, Brook making that decision to just show up years ago. So I want, you know, Brook to share more about the quad, because it really was, he convinced me to do it.
Yeah, Brook.
Yeah, most definitely. So, you know, from my end, you know, I saw Maurice's Instagram post that he was rowing out of DC, and I was like, I don't know any other Black men that row a single in DC aside from me. So I you know, I hit him up on the Instagram DM, and then I asked him, hey, you know, my novice coach, you know, Mark Colson gave me an MPOCR double, which is 1990. And I want to take it out for a drive. You know, would you like to go, you know, row double with me? And then he said, yeah, I'm cool with that. So, you know, we took the double out, we took it for a spin. And then I think he was testing if I was actually a good sculler or not, because he waited to ask me about the quad until the end. And then he said, hey, you know, you're actually a really good sculler. My boy Marcus and Napoleon, we're thinking of doing a quad. Napoleon is in his, you know, 40s. And, you know, if you want to participate with that, you know, feel free to join. And then I said, 40, huh?
Why they gotta call out our age, Napoleon?
Yeah. I was like, okay. And then, you know, I pitched this to Patrick. And then we got on a Zoom, and Napoleon flew over. And then I saw Napoleon, and his muscles are the size of my head. Like, when I say a head, one with my afro out, like, and, you know, he was, you know, super, you know, super toned. And he was just, you know, when we first met him, he was already doing 30K on the erg. And then we were like, you know, we had practice. He said, no, I know. And then, and actually before practice, you know, once I pitched to Patrick, you know, our high performance coach, Marco Bovo, we also pitched it to him as well. And he was super stoked, because he has always been wanting to be part of this, because he was actually my high performance coach when I was running out of AWL. And so we knew he believed in this mission, and we knew he would do a great job. So he was, you know, he was there with us, you know, through the start to the finish. In addition to that, you know, one thing we had a problem with was we had a midweight coxed quad, meaning that, you know, the boat only goes, you know, straight. We don't have any toe steering. So, you know, we had a little trouble finding a boat that had toe steering. And in our area, you know, we were asking from club to club. You know, we were going around. We couldn't find any except one. You know, we definitely want to highlight this, because, you know, UMD Women's Rowing Club had a lightweight women's quad, and it had toe steering. You know, we're 4 big men, so it's like, you know, as fast as an 8. So I was the bow seat. There's no way I could steer that boat with just pressure, because I know Marcus would outpower me, and also Napoleon and Maurice. So they offered to give us their lightweight women's quad. So we practiced out of that. and we're like, okay, this will get the job done. You know, we're just gonna go with this. This is the best we could do. So, you know, we took that quad to Masters Nationals.
Cool.
And Maurice, and if Maurice, if you want to add in, I know you were the connector of all of us. So
yeah, I mean, I think it was just almost like fate, like everything. It was like a big puzzle piece that all just went together, with Napoleon's idea, and then Brooks connections, and then Marcus and me and him growing up in Philadelphia together. Like everything just fell into place, and it was just right place, right time. Patrick, you know, kind of put all the logistics together. And I mean, without any one of us, it wouldn't have happened, to be completely honest. So I think everybody had a huge role into what brought us here today.
Cool. And then Marcus, how did you get looped in? Who reached out, and how did you get connected?
So it was either Maurice or Napoleon. I don't remember like chronologically, but yeah, like Napoleon said earlier, we were messaging on Instagram. I've never met him before, and then he might have asked me actually, and then Maurice was like, "Oh yeah, you know, like we should do this," and yeah, you know, I guess for me it felt like I was like more of a mercenary. I was like, you know, it'll be fun to race. I haven't raced in a while, and I love the course down at Oak Ridge, so it was definitely down for that. And I think it was a good cost for sure. So yeah, that was it. Either Napoleon or.
And how did the boat do? How did it feel? How did you guys row together?
Let me brag on the kids. You know, they were in a lightweight women's quad. They did amazing. They won the silver medal at nationals in the quad. The double, Marcus and Brooks double won the national championship in their double, and we can go around the room. There were several amazing wins. What was really amazing about that weekend at Masters Nationals was seeing so many Black faces on the water, where I know a lot of the times where we feel like, oh, where it's like, oh, look, it's that Black person, where it was more common. And really, for everybody watching, I see there's 115 people on right now. So thank you for all of you who are on. Yes. It really is about it being a day when there isn't a need for a Black quad talk or that, but that starts with, you know, like, share this video with people and let that kid who you may not even know see that, and that will resonate. Let those parents see that. So it really is about showing up and being there. And, you know, like Marcus was driving down from Philly. These gentlemen were doing the work that it took to make it happen. That wasn't easy work. And they went in there and they kicked butt. And I want to tie on to that. I forgot, looking at this group, head of the Charles, inclusion 4. Brook was the stroke for that boat. Maurice was the stroke for the inclusion double that won. Napoleon was in one of our other inclusion doubles. So there were Black men stroking, and the coxswain for that boat that won was also one of the Black juniors who actually came over and coxed our boat because it meant so much to him as a young man of color to be in there and to be in the boat with Brook. So it matters when we show up. It matters when we go out, and it's not about bragging on ourselves. But, you know, yeah, it was a great experience. But now they're going to go back next year and kick everybody's butt.
Oh, yeah, we're coming this year.
Cool. So I really appreciate you guys, just kind of giving us a little bit of insight into what the purpose was, how it all kind of came together, and how it went. I am really hoping that we can transition. So we've got 35 minutes left, and I really, you guys are all super inspiring, and in different ways too. And I'm really excited to hear a little bit about you guys as individuals, and to just kind of open this up to the community. So we're going to start with stroke seat, Marcus. So Marcus has a huge, amazing rowing resume. Marcus was the Crash B winner. He has raced at the Olympic trials. he has been a rower for a long time and has an amazing career. Now coaching, as he said, at the University of Washington. So Marqus, the first question is for you. What motivated you to accomplish all that you've accomplished in your rowing career?
Honestly, I guess until I've heard this question, like I don't know, I don't like to sit back and reflect on it. And I think a lot of like life lessons can be learned from being in the boat as well. So a big thing, and in sports as well, just like staying in the present. So I look back and I'm like, oh, like I've done a few things. There's still a lot of more things that I do want to do or wanted to do. And I always tell people I'm very like insular to rowing too, maybe to a fault. But like when everything's going around, especially like 2020, we had a lot of global, destruction going on. I always tell people like the best thing I can do is put my blades in on the water, blades in on time. And to me, it's like you just focus on one thing. You just keep taking these small steps. And I guess when you do look back and reflect, you've done some things that make your younger self proud. So yeah, I never just like look back and like it doesn't matter to me. Every year, I try to tell myself that I'm a novice in the sport. So just to make sure I'm open to learning and not stagnating at all.
Did you have a coach or somebody who you felt like really kind of got you on that or helped get you on that path? And maybe can you talk a little bit about I guess some of the coaches who have maybe helped you along the way?
Yeah, so I personally, I'm definitely like a diva in the boat. Like I need things to be very technical. I need them to be very methodical, and some people don't need that. So even like the coaches that didn't have that that coaching style, I still learn from. It didn't cater to my athletic needs, but as a coach now, I see what I like and didn't like. So big shout out to Brandon, BLJ Community Rowing. He's very, very instrumental. And also Anne-Marie, who was the first coach I ever had in rowing. It's at this small camp in Philly called Fairmount Park Rowing Camp. So she was like the first one to really give me like the confidence, because I was a pretty good athlete with the confidence to row. She's very nurturing. And I'm always like, it's like fun to coach varsity and all, but like the novice rowers are like the most like important because that's your first interaction with the sport, so like Anne-Marie was like amazing in that. And then from there, I had a really good coaches. I think the person that catered to my style the most was just at Vesper summer programs. His name is Colin Regan, and he's the first one like that nerded out on rowing, like this slow-moing video, like talking about all this stuff. And I remember I was having a problem with being connected to the water, and like a strong dude, and I'm pushing as hard as I can, which most coaches say, especially for younger athletes. And he was like, and I really love cars, so he was like, you got like a wet day and you got an Audi RS6 and you got like a Corvette, and then for like non-car people, one is a very smart all-wheel drive car, and then other is a big engine and all the power is going to the back wheels. So he's like, this RS6 that has less power is going to win just because it has that traction and that grip, and they like kind of opened my mind as an athlete and especially as a coach, because I just coach in metaphors all day. And I'm a big believer that we can be better at rowing off the water as well. We just constantly think about it, because physics is universal.
Cool. Yeah, I love that metaphor too. That's awesome. My final question before moving on. So, for any kids who may see this, young rowers who are watching this, who may be inspired by you, Do you have a message for them, some encouragement that you can send their way?
Yeah, just it's hard, you know, and it's another metaphor, like if you're zoomed in on a picture, it's hard to really see the big picture. You know, this is like in anything, you know, you might just see a speck or blurred vision. So when you're out there and you got these crazy, like in Seattle, it's very gray, these gray, cold days, and you think you're not getting better, you know, you zoom out a little bit, you pan out and you see, oh, I'm a lot better than I was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, you know. That's a David Banks quote he said to me when I was really, really upset about some seat racing. So that, you know, you just gotta like pan out, look at the big picture, and keep doing the things that work. You know, it's like the habits work, and the hard work is like the ultimate currency in like any field. Um, so yeah, and you know, just live in the moment. You know, don't get too excited about the last stroke you got to take or nervous about the last stroke you got to take. Don't worry about the last one. I'm sorry. Don't get too nervous about the final stroke that you have to take and the previous stroke you have to take. Like just try to make the next stroke your best stroke. And that's, again, a metaphor for life and especially applicable to rowing.
Cool. Thank you so much. I appreciate that insight. That's not just for the kids. That's for everybody on this call. So I really appreciate that. We're now gonna move to Maurice. So you may have seen Maurice on Instagram from time to time, but Maurice is a JL ambassador and a WinTech ambassador, an ambassador for Rowing Blazers. Maurice has also rowed all around the world. He has rowed out of many different boat houses. He's had a lot of experience that I've never had, and that probably most of us on this call have never had, as far as just the diversity of his rowing experiences. And so, Maurice, my first question for you is, you know, you've rowed all over the place, and can you tell us something? Like, I guess, what have you learned from all of these different experiences, rowing in all of these different environments and different places?
Honestly, the places that I've been, the hospitality of every place that I've been to was just amazing. For me as a kid, like I always loved to travel. I always loved to meet new people, see new things, and it just made me, you know, feel alive. So, and embracing other cultures other than my own. So going to Australia, which was my longest stint overseas, it was just amazing. That was where I first started learning competitive sculling. I had learned recreation sculling at Bachelor's Barge Club and on Boathouse Road, but I learned competitive sculling over there. And over there, you can't get into a sweep boat unless you know how to scull. So it's kind of a little different ball game over there, and they're extremely technical. As Marcus said, the technique is a huge factor. I didn't really start taking power strokes until I was probably about a month and a half in. I just needed to get the technique down in a single. Outside of the rowing, I mean, the food, the people, it's just embracing and seeing how others live. I feel like people grow when they take bits and pieces from other people. And so I grew up, born and raised in Philadelphia, but I wanted to know more than that. And I also wanted to give a piece of me to everywhere that I've been to. Growing up with the sport of rowing, you don't really see a lot of people that look like me, look like Marcus, Napoleon, Coach Patrick, Brook. You don't see a lot of that. And so my dad brought me to a race, and he pretty much asked me what I saw, and I said, there's nobody that looks like me. And he said, that doesn't mean that you can't do that. And so my whole promise to myself was, one, to make sure no kid that looked like me ever could ever say that there's nobody that looks like them. I want them to be able to find us. I want us to be visible. And the second part of that is going around the world so they know that, hey, we are out here and we are rowing. And I mean, I've been to England, Australia, the Bahamas. Like I've tried to embrace every single last one of those cultures and take something from them, but also give them something. And so, you know, someone's inspired in those countries and it kind of trickles down. It's almost like a domino effect. And, you know, the grand scheme of things, I just want the sport to be, you know, a diverse sport for any and everybody.
That's awesome. I appreciate you given that insight and really kind of your vision for rowing too. You had mentioned that there's kind of a different there's sort of different systems of rowing around the world, right? Like other than just in the US. So can you just talk a little bit about this and what your current plans are for some of the training and things that you're up to?
So yeah, when I went overseas, the way the Australians do it is pretty much there's a grading system. And when you first, you know, sign up, you're at a certain grade and you pretty much just, they have all of these events is A through D, and they have all of these events. And if you're a D grade sculler within that point system, you race each other. And so once you win that race, you get a certain amount of points. Second place get a certain amount of points. And then once you gain enough points, you go into that next bracket and you just start moving up the chain. And with that being said, it just makes things fun because you're racing people that's around the similar speed as you. And it's also like a really cool development piece because everybody within your group, everybody wants to be fast or faster than the other. Nobody wants to come in last place. And so they compete with each other and then move up to the next bracket and then have to work a bit harder to win that bracket, and then they just keep going up, and it's just a fun journey. And I think it was really good for me to be into that because honestly, after the Naval Academy and after that door closed on me, I was pretty kind of down in the dumps, and I wasn't training as much, and it was just a bad situation for me. But once I got over there, that I got pretty much just wrapped into that system, and it just the sport became fun again, and I just fell in love with it all over again, and I just brought that back to Undine when I came back stateside.
Cool, awesome. Well, thank you, Maurice. We're gonna move to two-seat Napoleon. Napoleon. So if you see those medals right behind him, Napoleon started as an elite track star. We were hearing some of the amazing races that he was in, including setting a world record at some point. Which he can talk a little bit about, but Napoleon came to rowing a little bit later in life. He has rowed in Puerto Rico, multiple clubs down south. Napoleon is also a breast cancer survivor and has undergone numerous difficulties, difficulties, but it's really amazing that you're here and that you are crushing it not only back in the track days, but now as a masters rower. So Napoleon, my question for you is, can you talk a little bit about some of those challenging situations that you've gone through, and what motivated you to stay at the top, stay committed despite these the difficulties that you've gone through?
Okay, well, let me start by the world record is a masters world record. So it is now an American record. It's been broken since then, but I think that the vicissitudes in life that I've been faced with have given me a different type of mentality. I am definitely very mentally strong, and in sport, it's just as much physical as it is mental. And I think that having gone through breast cancer twice, it really made me have a desire for life. I was determined not to just give up. And so that carried over. And having run track pretty much since I could walk, starting from my mother starting me in the baby Olympics on through age group track and collegiately, I've had the privilege and honor to work under and be trained by some top-notch coaches who instilled in me hard work. Through track and field with my coach, Musa Williams, with Tracy over at TRC, and also the ability to be coached by some elite people like Caracola. She just worked with me recently. And so it gives me that motivation to keep going, because giving up, you don't know the outcome. So I know with cancer, being told I had less than a year to live, I wasn't accepting that. I wanted to live another day. So I had to fight on. And it's the same thing with sport. If you keep going to the end, you never know what might happen. Someone could be in the lead and catch a crab right at the end, and you pass them, and there it is. You got the gold medal. So you roll to the end. You run the race from start to finish. I think the thing that has always stayed with me is a particular saying by Lena Horne. And I remember reading it as a child, and always stuck with me, saying it's not the load that you're given, but how you carry it. So when you're faced with adversity, okay, it's been given to you. What are you going to do with it? And so that has just kind of carried over into rowing for me. I know if I put in the hard work now, the reward will hopefully come soon, but sometimes it may not come as soon as you like. But putting in those meters, putting in that time on the water and on the erg, it will yield results. And it's anything in life. That's how I feel. And so that's kind of giving me that motivation to keep going. Having lived in Puerto Rico and gone through 2 Category 5 hurricanes within 3 weeks apart, losing everything, came to Texas with 3 suitcases and my dog Raleigh, and had to start over, but I was still alive. And so I can always start over. Things you can replace, but I had my health, and I was mentally strong and was ready to go, and showed up at TRC, was embraced fully by the staff there. Matt Nifton has been fantastic. And at the time when I showed up, I was the only Black male rower on the club, but that has since changed. And now we have quite a few. And Tracy came about a year after I did. And of course, we just are the best friends. And so she works with me on and off the water. And she's been very instrumental in my life and a lot of transitions that have transpired as of recently. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah.
And my second question for you, Napoleon, is, and I'm sure I'm not the only person, but when I first met you, there was a joy about you that was amazing and pretty unique, really. Like there's a joy that you have and that you carry with you. And so, I just kind of want to ask a little bit about that. Like,
Okay.
where does the joy come from? And what are some of those top kind of best experiences that you've had in the sport?
Okay. Well, I'll put it to you like this. You always hear people say, live each day as though it was your last, and live each day to the fullest. A lot of people will repeat that empty rhetoric, but they don't really take it in. But when you're told you have less than a year to live, you start calculating time, something you may not be to get back. You really evaluate things. Am I going to let this upset me? Am I going to enjoy this? I'm not going to let myself be upset and waste my time with this. I am glad to be alive. Okay, so when I was 30 and told I would not live to be 31, it puts things into perspective very early, because I'm still young. Good Lord. And so I'm glad to be here. Really, I'm just being honest. And I make sure that I try to live each day to the fullest, because you're never a guarantee for the next day. So I want to embrace it fully. And in terms of my best experiences, Masters rowing, besides the track event, has allowed me to come in contact with some of the world's best in the sport. I have been able to say, honestly, when I went to World Masters Rowing Championships in 2018, I was sitting under a tent, just kind of relaxing. I was actually talking to Sam, who's with USA Rowing, and just so cool. And she was giving me some snacks, and we were just talking, and I was just resting. And this gentleman comes over and says, "Hey, that was a great race you did, great sprint, great finish." And so we would continue to converse, and then exchange a few more pleasantries. And then he said, "Oh, by the way, my name is Ed Ives." I almost fell out of the chair. I know who Ed Ives is. I know his whole backstory, that he was a US 4 that displaced the other one. And he was a stroke and ended up winning the silver medal in the '84 Olympics. And he took the time, wanted to say, "Hey, well, I can show you some stuff on the erg." I said, "I would love that." Well, beyond that, TRC has allowed me the ability to meet Jevy Stone. I've been able to go out sculling on Lady Bird Lake with her. She won the silver in the Olympics in Rio in the single. And I've been able to be coached by Caracola. as of last week. It was week before last, my apologies. And I was able to really learn some things. And Tracy was instrumental in making that happen. And then I got to wear an Olympic bronze medal. Kara actually brought her medal after the training session was over. She said, "Hey, by the way, I brought something I think you might like." And I said, "What?" She said, "I brought my Olympic medal. I couldn't get out of that boat fast enough. I thought I was going to flip trying to get out of so quick at that dock." But those type of experiences, and they keep me motivated. Meeting the best of the best, it's wonderful. And being able to then hear from Kara telling me that I have inspired her and she's become a fan of mine. That's amazing, even though I'm a huge fan of hers, knew her whole backstory and everything. But being able to touch those, come in contact with those people and being able to inspire youth and being able to be a part of the inclusion rowing, because I used to be a special education teacher. So that demographic is near and dear to my heart. And Patrick afforded me the opportunity to do that. And the joy that Jesse had that we were going to be rowing together. Oh my God. I had to kind of fight back a little bit because when we were going to row out on the Charles, and he says to me, "I'm ready to row." And he doesn't speak a lot and he's pretty introverted, but he said, I'm ready to row today. And you came from Texas for me. Oh my God. I was wailing and stuff. I had to hold it together, but that meant so much because he understood what was going on, but he said, somebody's doing this for me. And I got to be a part of that. That's wonderful. So
cool. Well, thank you very much for sharing, Napoleon. Much appreciated. Brook, we're gonna move over to you. So Brook rowed at Wakefield High School, as well as Washington College and Athletes Without Limits High Performance. He is the treasurer of the Black Coaches and Rowers Association, and he's also in the process of founding Ethiopian Rowing. Brook has coached youth, adaptive, and veterans, and he ran the all-Black rowing team called DC Stroke Serve Your City Youth Rowing in Washington, DC. Brook now is the program coordinator with Stem to Stern, and he's working with clubs across the country. Brook, in our time, together, it has been really awesome to hear your passion for equity in rowing, and also your vision. I think it'd be great for the rowing community to hear what's your vision for rowing as a sport in our country, and also globally.
Yeah, no, for sure. So for me, I spoke a little bit on my background earlier. I migrated from Ethiopia when I was 12. I was privileged enough to have, Wakefield High School crew, give me a scholarship to be part of, their team. And, it's like, if I did not have that, I would not be able to participate. And, Patrick was one of the head coaches. And after, the winter conditioning was done, he pulled me aside and he said, "Hey, I noticed you didn't sign up for the water sessions. Is everything okay?" And I told him, "Hey, our parents would like to spend the fund for other things than, rowing. So there's no way they can afford to do this." And then he said, "I got you, just come to the water practice." And, that meant a lot to me. So that's when I realized, like, if I was never given that opportunity, that I would never be able to, be here right now. So that kind of like spoke to me. And it's just like, I felt obligated to make sure that no other kid has to go through the same barriers. The biggest barrier is financially, money. And then there was also like other barriers, which our program Stem to Stern addresses. That a lot of rowing clubs, talk about diversity, they want to build diversity, but it's not that easy. It's like, when you're trying to have a baby, you got to child-proof your house. You got to do the same thing in your boathouse. You got to DEI proof it. You got to make sure you have a comfortable space for rowers of colors before you bring them into your boathouse. There were days when I was a freshman in college, we were doing a lot of sweeping, but my novice coach, Mark Colson, he used to take me out sculling. And this one time, we couldn't see oars, and someone we took like someone else's oars accidentally, because they all look the same. They're all white oars. I don't really know what the difference is back then. So this one lady came out and she was just yelling like, why are you doing this and stuff? And then he's just like, I'm just trying to teach him how to row. Like, I'm just trying to teach him how to scull. And then, if I was white, I would be different. You know what I mean? It's like, you got to make sure your boathouse is a safe space, before you start thinking about diversity. And that's when I kind of started, kind of envisioning myself, being coaching as a senior in high school with Patrick with the Cebu City youth program, because I saw myself within those kids, and I wanted to make sure they were taken care of no matter what their background was. So that's when I kind of made the mission to not just do it nationally, but also globally, for our brothers in Africa. And there's a couple rowers I talked to, like Jack from Kenya, and this one rower from Sudan, and he's asking me like, give me workouts. I know I can make it. He's reaching out to me on Instagram, and I'm like, okay, I'll give you workouts that I do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not like an Olympian or anything, but it's kind of like they see that representation, and they want to be part of that. And I want to make sure, like, at least with my time in this life, to make sure rowing is as easily accessible, at least kind of like start a progress within the rowing world globally. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you for sharing. Just a follow-up question for that. You've now had some experience, meeting different, people at different boathouses. And I guess my question is, are you hopeful? Like, do you think that this is that rowing can change, and kind of what will it take for our sport to change?
Yeah, anything is possible in this world. You know what I mean? Like Napoleon kind of said it all. When he was talking about his story. I am very hopeful. If I wasn't hopeful, I would not be doing the works that I were doing right now, because it would all be for nothing. And I'm gonna make sure things are gonna get done. Patrick knows me. I'm not a talker, I'm a doer. So it's like, people just gotta stop talking, and they gotta start making plans and start doing. And that's how you get things done. You gotta plan it out, set a goal, and kind of like plan out, how do I get to that goal? Like, if you have a DI goal, okay, what are you doing right now to make it work? Are you in the right track, or should you be taking a different route, or should you be seeking advices to get to that goal?
Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Brook. All right. Our final panelist for the night is Patrick Johnson. Patrick is the National Director of Athletes Without Limits. He is an active duty disabled veteran. He's the founder of DC Stroke Serve Your City Youth. He's the former head coach of Wakefield High School and Lake Braddock High. He has been very involved with the community by building a strong veterans and adaptive rowing program at Athletes Without Limits. Patrick, I'm really excited to chat with you. A little different perspective than some of these other guys, but how have you seen the sport change and evolve over the years?
Well, the first thing is this. I mean, like, this wasn't happening 5 years ago. This wasn't happening 10 years ago. And when I say this, I mean, like, we can go to a lot of conventions, we can do a lot of that stuff, but are you listening to the right people? It wasn't until like 2 years ago where I actually saw people of color speaking on people of color things. And so we're there and we're out there. And I think a big thing that I'm seeing a lot of people posting things in the chat talking about technical things. It's like, that's not what this is about. This is about using your ears and listening to the people. My biggest thing, as a coach of color, my degree was in music performance. I was a classical clarinetist all my life, so I knew what it was like to be the black kid who was like, "Why are you doing that? That's what white people do. That's not what we do." So I grew up in Huntsville, Texas, a small town in Texas. So when I got into the Navy band, the White House support band, DC, I was one of 5 minorities in that White House support band. So I saw a lot of the same issues that I saw in the boathouses. So a lot of that life experience from being in that scene just transitioned over. And, rowers are no different. The judgment of like Brooks' example of that person who got irate about the oars, and it wouldn't have happened if it was one of the white kids, because we saw a lot of that. The years of in different communities where you have to prove yourself to be more. And I think about World Rowing Championship when Angel Rodriguez, the Cuban amazing rower, walked up to me, and I was just like, oh my God, he's coming up, and he was huge. And he just said, "You're the black coach from USA." And I was just like, yeah, you're Angel. And he says, "Keep doing what you're doing, because you must be damn good, because they call you the black coach from USA." And that really opened my eyes to, we need to change that stuff by exposing that this isn't okay in our community. So I'm going to challenge all my allies out there, all my white, non-black people, non-brown people, that it's really up to you. We're doing it. We're speaking it. We're making ourselves vulnerable. This stuff isn't easy to do. It isn't easy to, bare our souls and stuff. And we're not all the same. I mean, if you look in this group right here, we have so many different personalities, so many different types of athletes. As a coach, like, I look at Marqus, I'm like, oh, that's my stroke seat, because he's always calm and cool like that. He's always together. Right now his screen's frozen. It's hilarious. Looks like he's asleep. But you look for those different things, and not having that, oh, you're this, so you should be in that position, or you should play that instrument, or you should be that, or why are you so angry, or why are this? We don't all act the same. We don't all have the same background. So get out there and get to know those parents, those folks out there, of those students. You're bringing them into an environment where they didn't go to boathouses. I didn't go to boathouse as a 53-year-old black man. I wasn't going into a boathouse. Then, honestly, I wasn't going into a symphony hall much. And so that was awkward and hard then. So a lot of it is, are you making it a safe place? Are you making it a welcome place by not just having one open house, but following up? Not, having things like activities where you are taking the time to get to know those individuals over long term, not just one season. And it doesn't always work. I hate hearing, we tried that and it didn't work. I won't get on my soapbox here, but try it again, because you know what? It happens, it happens in every other area. So keep trying, and don't say, well, we tried it and we tried to get some kids of color on our team. Get to know them when they're 3rd graders, 4th graders. So that way rowing is a place where they go. That boathouse is a place where their parents invite them to come to races before you're trying to get them on their team, like a Brook, where you're like trying to convince parents, okay, pay money to do this sport that you know nothing about. And that's why at Wakefield we're like, any kid who wants to be in there, they're going to be in here. They didn't know there were 15 kids on that crew of 45 that were scholarship, because that was the mantra of that athletic director and that principal. And me, it's like, we've got to make this space for them. And that's like folks like Maurice, Marqus, Napoleon, Brook, they're all here because people and communities have believed in them. And I look, and so for me, as the old man, what makes me really happy is seeing something like this, to see our young men who are that future. So when they're my age, there will be 20, coaches, because they're not the black coach. They're a coach. It will be, no big deal to see a quad that's all, black and brown kids. They're around. And I just, want folks to know that it's your responsibility to make your space open for whatever it is, whether it's people of color, whether it's a gay and lesbian athlete, whether it's a Latino athlete, whether it doesn't matter. Social economics, look at those things and really be real about them. As Brooke said, do the work, don't just do the talk. So that's all I'm going to say, because I'm really fired up about like seeing these guys together for the first time. I mean, we've been so busy all season, and it kind of got me a lot of feels because I'm really proud of you gentlemen and the work that you did representing so much more than you even believe. You have no idea of the impact you've made from people who have been reaching out. As a board member for the Black Coaches and Rowers Association, we've been vetting there's a lot of parents who I see on here, a lot of high school, junior high, college athletes who have come out because of the example that you set. So do what you're doing there. Marcus, you being that coach, you being that example to say, look, this is an athlete and now he's a coach at one of the top rowing programs. It's like that kind of stuff. That example is there, and we appreciate that. And so I really am proud of you gentlemen for being the examples. And this Black History Month, I couldn't think of anything better than to just take in a small part of what is Black history, because we are history, we're our own history, and we're American history. So thank you for hearing us.
Thank you so much, Patrick. And we are actually right at time, but I don't think that we could have wrapped it up any better. So Patrick, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate you and your role in helping make this happen. Again, all of you guys, thank you so much for the insight and the commitment to the sport, the commitment to seeing change in the sport. We're going to keep doing the work and just do everything that we can to bring more equity to rowing. And it was amazing to see last year you guys coming together and really putting a statement out there. And I'm excited to see it again this year. So with that, we have just a few final announcements before you all jump off. Again, we have ODP camps. That information with financial aid, that's all going to be coming out next week. There are some new job postings on US Rowing's website, and I'm going to post that link in the chat right now. Please pass that around. It'd be great for you all to do that, as well as the Facebook group for BIPOC moms who are in the audience. I'm going to post this Facebook group right here as well. And then finally, we have our next, the next panel that we'll have next month is going to be a women-focused webinar to celebrate Women's History Month. Finally, again, I just want to thank all of you who were on the call tonight, hearing these guys talk about their vision for the sport and a bit about their story. Stay tuned. We're going to send a survey out. Thank you, everybody, and have a great night.